You are become increasingly hazardous, chosen ones. Your independence and boldness intimidate them. They used to know you, the version of you that they laughed at, undervalued, and ignored, the one who would overextend, shrink, and explain yourself. However, something has changed. Even if you are now silent, your presence is more powerful than their loudest cries. They rush to act as though nothing has happened, but it's too late. They are betrayed by their anxious looks. They straighten their garments, clear their throats, glance away too soon, and then gaze back. It has nothing to do with conceit. It has nothing to do with ego. Energy, the sort that cannot be borrowed, stolen, or counterfeited, is at issue. The type that compels others to listen, regardless of their desire to do so. Your presence is dominating, not noisy. And what's worst for them? You don't even make an effort. They used to be able to control you with loudness, not with strength or intelligence. They brought instability, manipulation, gaslighting, and passive-aggressive taunts cloaked in pretended compassion into your life. Every exchange was a skillfully constructed game meant to keep you on edge, questioning yourself, and caught in a never-ending loop of proving, defending, and explaining. You have to be reactive for them. Because they controlled the story as long as they could drag you into the tempest, they needed you involved. However, something has changed. You no longer play their game. They prod, they poke, they attempt to elicit a response, waiting for you to lash out, defend yourself, and let them to drag you into a dispute where they may change the meaning of your words and your reality. You provide them with nothing. No answer. Don't be frustrated. Not even a glimmer of recognition. And that quiet, it scares them. They anticipated rage. Since fury still conveys concern and a sense of connection, they would have liked it. It provides them with something to twist and control. Silence, though? They have no control over the emptiness of silence. In an attempt to agitate you, they speak louder. They spread rumors in the hopes that you will hear them. They make up whole tales in their minds, telling themselves that your silence indicates that you are secretly planning, secretly in pain, and secretly wishing you could go back in time. You're not. Your quiet is the presence of something bigger, not empty. Nothing disturbs them more than the fact that you are at ease. They spent so much time instilling self-doubt and making you question every choice you made that they never anticipated the day you would just leave, not with a grand departure or a last argument. Just gone. No phone calls, no justifications. There's no need to clear your identity or correct their lies. And more loud than anything they could ever say is the lack of your enthusiasm. Expecting a message that would never arrive, they check their phones. In the hopes that someone would let them know you miss them, they bring up your name in talks. They wait at locations they believe you would visit again in the hopes of catching a sight of you, reverting to your previous habits. You never do. You've learned to disconnect. Something they'll never do. You have nothing left to prove, not because you are spiteful or want to exact retribution. They mutter. They scream. They scream into space, yet they have no choice but to confront themselves if you don't fuel their illusions. Their biggest worry is that. You can see how they are hesitant, stall, overthink, and wait for permission before acting. They are caught in a vicious cycle of worry, masquerading as preparation, crippled by their own uncertainties. They assure themselves that they are exercising caution. Weighing our alternatives, they tell themselves. However, what is the reality? They're scared of failing. Then there is you, making decisions, moving and selecting without hesitation, without waiting for approval, and without considering the opinions of others. They're confused by your assurance. They assume you must have inside knowledge, secret information, or some other hidden advantage. They whisper to each other, "How did they know? How did you know to walk away before the disaster hit? How did you know which opportunity was real and which one was a trap? How did you know who to trust, who to avoid, when to strike, when to wait?" You do. However, it is not from them. They believe that by keeping you in the dark, they could manipulate your movements. They believe that you required their counsel, their views, and their endorsement. They didn't realize how profound your inner direction was. You don't react to outside noise by moving. From alignment, you move. As they fumble, questioning every choice they make, you move on without turning around. They consider it to be conceit. They refer to it as luck. They are aware of the reality, though, which is that you are hearing something they are unable to hear. In an attempt to divert you, they try to undermine you. They propagate rumors in an effort to undermine your self-esteem. In the hopes that you may trip and fall, they put impediments in your way. However, nothing works since their acceptance does not give you authority. Their expectations are not the source of it. It is not derived from their beliefs, regulations, or systems. It originates inside. Thus, you forge your own route while they pause, waiting for someone else to choose their destiny. They converse. You take action. They bide their time. You construct. They ponder. You are aware. That's why they're afraid of you. They believed they could take your place. They thought you would always be there, hoping, waiting, and demonstrating your value to be accepted. They treated you like you were nothing and made fun of you. However, nothing has the ability to become everything. And now, they observe from a distance, from the corners of rooms where they used to have the ability to degrade you, and from behind screens. They see your transformation. They witness the power that no longer asks for permission, the assurance that never falters. To make them feel at ease, they see that the brightness in your eyes has not dimmed, and they need it because they recognize what they lost, not because they care or because they've changed. When they had you, they never appreciated you. They didn't think you would surpass them. You were meant to remain tiny, accessible, and in a position where others could determine your value. However, you didn't. You developed. They need you, but their pride prevents them from admitting it. They look for ways to get back in, but they don't say sorry. Never with regret. Rather, they experiment with superficial comments, informal check-ins, and phony support masquerading as interest. They think that their abrupt acknowledgement would make you feel so gratified that you will throw open the door and welcome them in as if nothing had occurred. However, you do recall. You recall how they laughed at your hardships, how they disregarded you when you needed them most, and how they murmured about you when they thought you wouldn't hear. You recall the occasions when they had the opportunity to support you, but decided to turn away. What about that memory? It prevents you from allowing them back in, which is a mistake, since some things have changed, haven't they? Not only them, you. You no longer look to them for approval. You no longer value their approval. They go crazy about that. They believe they could decide who is important. They believe they were the guardians of your value. Now, however, the roles are reversed. They're the ones observing you now. They are desperate for your attention. They require your vitality. They want to believe that they are still important to you. But since you don't chase, they don't. You're not begging. If someone slammed doors in your face, you don't open them for them. What about the irony? The same individuals who formerly made fun of you are now fervently yearning to see you again. However, you won't. Considering that you are now your own source, you see how much they always needed you once you come to terms with the fact that you never needed them. You awoke. You choose to walk away from the game after seeing it for what it was. You undid the cords they used to pull with such ease. They now observe you, unaffected by their typical ploys, autonomous and untouchable. And they despise it because they have never had any affection, respect, or true authority over you. Just control, simply exercise control. And they were left with nothing when you removed it. They attempted to instill guilt in you. You did not respond. They attempted to entice you into a dispute. You said nothing. They attempted to portray you as the bad guy. You allow them to speak. They recognize the one thing they never wanted to acknowledge. They need you more than you ever needed them. Every effort to entice you back in simply made them more irate and desperate. They didn't believe you could survive without them. They never thought you would surpass them in influence, exceed them, or outgrow them. And yet here you are, strong, resilient, and unfazed. They are frightened by that. Not because of what you did to them, not because you're looking for retribution, but because you've turned into something they can't manage. Additionally, those who depend on control are afraid of what they can't control. Thus, they mutter. They are disparaging. In an effort to control you, they fabricate fresh tales in an attempt to drag you back down. However, none of it is effective, because the only way they can access you is if you delete the strings. Their absence no longer poses a threat to you. They can't use their disapproval to control you anymore. Now that you are aware of your value, they can no longer make you feel unworthy. The worst danger of all is that they lost everything when they were unable to control you. Let us now pause for a minute to celebrate those who have been chosen. Cheers to the people who have a different perspective on the world, the silent protectors, the watchful spirits, who are constantly alert and on guard. They wouldn't have it any other way, and they don't fit the mold. They create their own pathways, waging invisible wars, and shedding light on the dark places, while others follow well-known ones. It's acceptable if it's not for everyone. But you'll know something is for you if you sense it in your soul. Don't wear masks, not a pretense, just the facts. This is the location of the Obsidian Inner Order, a community of like-minded individuals who come together to exchange knowledge, bond, and change. More than 450 people who are bound together by purpose rather than conformity. You know where to find us if you're ready. The description contains the URL. If not, that's okay too, since we're constantly here, keeping an eye on things and changing things in ways that aren't visible. Cheers to people that follow their own path because it's who they are, not for attention. To you, a toast. Thank you. Whether it's a call, a message, or an unexpected appearance at a location they know you frequent, they always come back. They appear carefree at first, as if nothing has happened, as if nothing was shattered, and as if they never abandoned you while they prospered. They try to soften you, weaken your resolve, and make you forget why you left in the first place by bringing up the past, the good old days, and the memories. They don't realize, though, that the version of you they recall is no longer there. Their nostalgia no longer encompasses you. You've changed since you previously yearned for their approval, gave up your tranquility to keep them near, and let the past serve as an excuse to cling on. When they notice something is unusual, you can see it in their eyes. They want you to adopt their old habits by speaking to you in the same manner. However, the manner the words land has changed. Their internal jokes seem phony. Their charisma seems phony. They are looking for the old you, the person who would have sacrificed all for them, who would have shown forgiveness without demanding forgiveness, who would have gone out of your way to maintain the relationship. However, that individual is no longer there. And the ensuing quiet? It's very loud. Because when they returned, they expected to see familiar faces, but instead they saw a stranger wearing yours. They weren't prepared for this version of you, you see. The one who doesn't want closure, who doesn't feel the need to demonstrate how much you've changed, who doesn't need to revisit previous traumas because you've moved past them. They believed that you would have become sentimental with time and absence. However, they overlooked the fact that you haven't been waiting. You have been creating, changing, and growing. And you were busy changing into someone they didn't recognize while they stayed stuck in the past, certain that it would always hold you together. Now they scramble, attempting to get back in. They bring back memories of how much fun you had together, how important you were to them, and how unpleasant situations don't have to be. But they feel uneasy only because of you. It's because people feel it, not because you're mean or harbor animosity. They no longer fit into your world. They never developed into the type of person who could today walk with you, not because you pushed them away, and they will never be able to overcome that reality, the indisputable divide between who you were and who you have become. So let them stand at the doorway of your past, wishing they could be a better version of you. Don't glance back, though. You have no interest in bringing the past back to life. You used to run toward locations that depleted you more than they filled you. Run toward opportunities that forced you to beg. Run toward people who hardly noticed you. You were always the one aiming for respect, love, achievement, and recognition. However, something changed. You gave up running, ceased to prove, quit imposing things on yourself that weren't intended for you. And a miracle occurred during that silence. You began to get all that was intended for you. They took you for granted when you were chasing. So your absence now has more power than your presence ever had. They treated you like an option, minimized your value, and disregarded your work. They notice now. It's because you're no longer there, not because you're noisy or demanding. And that lack, it is more powerful than words could ever be. What changed, they wonder. They murmur about how everything seems to be coming together for you. From the shadows, they observe you, unable to comprehend why once closed doors are now opening for you. They suffer while you succeed, not because you are fortunate or have an advantage, but rather because you aren't wasting your energy running after things that are below you. They see you succeeding in spite of their disapproval, lack of connections, and lack of affirmation. Because they secretly believed you needed them, it frightens them. Without their approval, they thought you had no authority. They realize now, though, that you never had to chase. All you had to do was align. Furthermore, alignment is unmatched. The right conditions, the right people, and the perfect opportunity are all coming your way right now. Your energy dominates them, not because you pleaded for them. And the people who used to disregard you, they scurry. They attempt to reintegrate into your life by claiming to have always been there for you. They make an effort to remind you of your former self in the hopes that you would revert to their ideal of you. However, you don't need to prove anything anymore. You don't pursue. You don't give an explanation. You draw people to you. Furthermore, they will never comprehend it. They feel the burden of their own unrealized potential when they see you. At one point, you were just like them, standing next to them, going through the same hardships, and coping with the same constraints. But you took action when it was time to change. They didn't. They told themselves that progress was too difficult, too hazardous, and too unknown. So they manufactured excuses, chose comfort, and opted to remain stagnant. They are reminded of what they could have been each time they see you. You are not hated by them. The evidence that they had a choice is something they detest. Your presence compels them to acknowledge that they were the only ones preventing themselves. They might have developed with you. They may have risen, spread, or escaped. However, they didn't. They now watch you, talk about you, and sit in silent hatred, hoping you fail, so they may feel justified in being little. However, they are unrelated to your quest. Their resistance to change is not your fault. They will never forgive you for the decision you made to put yourself first. Examine your surroundings. Right now, everything you do is deliberate. Every choice, every limit, every advancement. Everything was constructed with a purpose. Your life is no longer about surviving. Freedom is what you live for. No poisonous relationships, absence of budgetary constraints, no extraneous sounds. They look for a weakness in your foundation and try to disturb you, but none exists. They discover too late that every weapon they employed against you is no longer effective. Your tranquility is not a coincidence. It's not luck that keeps you stable. This is the result of taking charge, eliminating distractions, eliminating unnecessary weight, and refusing to live up to the expectations of others. They can't even get to you, but they want to shake you. They follow your every step while speaking, as though you don't exist. They study your confidence, yet accuse you of being conceited. In whispered chats, people inquire about you even if they say they don't care. They watch for evidence that you've failed, looking for any indication that you've reverted to the persona they use to manipulate. However, they always discover strength when they search for weakness. They always find progress when they look for hardship, and it devours them. When they see you standing tall, they feel adoration, which they despise. They detest the fact that their own life seemed little in compared to yours, despite their best efforts to bring you down. Because you are moving while they are speaking, their whispers are meaningless, and they will continue to observe you. You never wanted to get even. You didn't have to. Those that have wronged you, they're falling apart. They are being crushed by the weight of their own deeds, not because you retaliated or because you exposed them. They broke themselves instead of breaking you, as they had hoped. They will be held accountable for every lie they said, every trap they laid, and every action they took against you. You are unaffected, uplifted, and unconcerned. They observe you from afar, thinking you would retaliate and show empathy for their plight. You've moved on, though, and that's what ruins them the most, because you're not the reason behind their demise. The reason for this is what they did to you. They are now compelled to cope with it. Ordinary was never intended for you. Every effort to make you weaker just made you stronger. Something in you was created by every rejection, betrayal, and quiet conflict. This authority is neither conditional, transient, or borrowed. You own it. They believed you were barely making it through the devastation they had caused you. You were never in ruins, though. You were getting up. You are currently unbeaten. They'll continue to observe and wait for evidence that you're still the person they knew, the one they could manipulate, the one who would lose it under duress. However, since you were never intended to be stopped, they will perish waiting. It's not luck. This isn't good fortune on your side. You've always been like this. Allow them to whisper. Allow them to have doubts. Allow the weight of their own insignificance to bear on them. There is nothing more for you to prove. They wanted you to fail. They were given front-row tickets to your ascent instead. In what ways has this change affected your own life? Share your experience in the space provided here. Tell them that you are untouchable and that their greatest nightmare has already been realized.